Hey, this is Matt. Once again, we're about to have videos of the paid request. It's time for DarkMetalSpider. Thank you so much for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, what have you. Feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, this is for The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, which I had heard of this film for quite a few years because I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff. A mix of martial arts and horror. In this case, you have the Shaw Brothers Kung Fu stuff, but then you have Hammer horror films. Now, granted, I'm not the biggest Hammer horror guy. I did like Horror of Dracula, but that's one of the few I liked. I did see others, Scars of Dracula, Taste the Blood of Dracula's Ass, whatever that movie was called. But Horror Dracula, I would say I liked more. I do like Christopher Lee. He's not in this. He said no because he thought it'd be embarrassing to do this film. And I'm sitting there going, Christopher Lee, rest in peace, man. But didn't you go on to do Police Academy 7, Mission to Moscow? And that is way more embarrassing than anything in this film. Again, Police Academy 7, Mission to Moscow. Just saying, man. But I do like Peter Cushing as well. I quite like Peter Cushing, and he's in this. And another one that, it wasn't Hammer, but a film they did together called Horror Express. I did enjoy. I thought that was a pretty good one. But anyway, Peter Cushing stars in this. I guess Christopher Lee had talked him to try to get him out of it, but Peter Cushing's like, well, it's right after his wife had passed away. He was depressed. He didn't want to sit at home, and this was a change of scenery because a lot of this was shot. It was shot in Hong Kong, and apparently the director had a bad time. The director did a couple Hammer horror films, but he talked about how this was a crap show because one thing they didn't realize that over in Hong Kong, a lot was shot in a silent film type of way, where we would do the sound effects and dialogue later because it was so noisy and so much going on that you could not record dialogue then and there. So you shot like a silent film, and that's why so many films afterward had this, even if it was on Cantonese language, and had a subtitle. It had a dubbed way of things, even if it's in their own language, because they would shoot the film, then they would put all the sounds, the sound effects, the voices afterward. It was just too noisy to record actual on-set dialogue, at least for a good chunk of those movies. And also, apparently, a lot of the crew, a lot of people there didn't know how to speak English, so apparently it was not the smoothest of shoots. And the film came out, I don't think they did the best because he didn't have a whole lot of these type of films, and critics didn't really like it, but I liked it for what it was. I thought it was fun for what it was. Again, it's a mix of vampires. You got Peter Cushing, which is a great asset, and then you have the bit of kung fu. It's not the best kung fu. There's plenty amount of films that you'll see better kung fu. But the mishmash is interesting enough to make it at least seem unique and some B-movie fun to be had. I mean, the gist of it is Dracula is visited by this monk, Ka. It's 1804, and Ka pretty much says, listen, I have these 7 vampires in overseas, and they have a lack of power, so I need your help to make the vampires powerful again, respectable again, you know, to take over the land. And Dracula says, okay. Now, again, it's not Christopher Lee. He didn't want to come back. It would have been nice if it was. Granted, you would have only seen 2 scenes. Unless you did Christopher Lee and he's like, well, we got Christopher Lee, so we'll put him in a few more scenes. But it's mostly 2 scenes. And a lot of pain cake. Pancake Dracula is what I call him. Pancake face. And apparently Dracula can now take over bodies. He's like, yes, I want to escape this place. I will use your body. I didn't know Dracula could do that. You could tell Ka isn't really gung-ho about this, so you have this kind of swirling of mist, smoke, whatever it's supposed to be, and then all of a sudden, there's only one body, and it's Ka, but it's Dracula's voice. I don't know if it means they just merged into one, I guess. But again, I did not know Dracula could do that. And I'm thinking, well, why didn't he do this before? Why didn't he do this sooner? If he could just do this just like that. And he leaves, but it's the middle of the day. So is he going to walk into sunlight? Because when the guy arrives, it's sunlight. And you see that he's leaving. I'm like, can he be in sunlight when he's taking over his body? If that's the case, why didn't he do this sooner and more times? If it's not, then why is he walking as if he's going to go outside? Shouldn't he wait until it's dark out? But either way, then it jumps to 100 years later. It's 1904. Peter Cushing is overseas talking with the Asian community at this college. And he tells a story about this village and these 7 golden vampires. These vampires with a gold mask. And there's this farmer that tried to save one of the girls. He was not 100% successful. He had to make a run for it. He's able to get one of these like medallions. Look like Batman's logo or something, like this gold bat medallions. So even back then, people had some bling bling. Or I guess maybe the 70s Hong Kong version of bling bling. Like a necklace, gold chain, but it's like a big bat. Puts on this Buddhist temple. So a vampire touches it. He dies on fire. Now the look of the vampires are not the best. It's kind of like they just put a bunch of gray crap on it. So it's nothing too exquisite for makeup effects. It's like, okay, they have these masks on. You have the teeth, and then put a bunch of like gray stuff on. So it's not the best looking. It's a little bit cheap looking, but you know, it is what it is, I guess. And so here a vampire's already died, so technically isn't it the legend of the 6 golden vampires? Because this vampire's already dead, and now you're dealing with 6 of them, not 7. But okay. I guess technically the worst 7 to start. And the folks disbelieve Van Helsing. They think he's full of it. Other than one guy, who you find out is the grandson of that farmer we saw in the flashback. And I did like this guy, David Chiang. I know he's been in other stuff. I think he was in this film called Just Heroes that I reviewed a while ago. He's been in other Hong Kong films. I did like him. I liked his presence. I thought he was decent in the kung fu aspects. I thought he was a likable enough presence that I thought he was a nice asset. And he proves it to Van Helsing. He has the medallion that was talked about in that story. And I need your help to find this village and defeat these vampires. And then he has a brethren of his own of brothers who know martial arts. One guy's good with an axe. One guy's good with a bow and arrow. You have a lady. You have this group of people. Also, Van Helsing has a son. Now, I'm guessing this is a different Van Helsing from the one in Horror of Dracula because of the time frame. And also, now he's got a son. So I'm guessing... Because it seems like Peter Cushing has a history of Dracula. But at the same time... I guess you say, oh, it's part of my ancestry, or... however you want to put it. And that's why... So I don't know if this Van Helsing has been in other ones, or they're just other ones that just happen to have Peter Cushing as a Van Helsing. Kind of like Castlevania. It's a Belmont, you know, the history of Belmonts to deal with Dracula. I'm not big on Van Helsing's kid. I don't think he needed to be in the film. That's one of the aspects I'm like, oh, I don't really care about this guy. There's this woman who's rich and he helps her out, but really it's these other guys, in particular, two of them. One with a bow and arrow, one with, I forget what weapon he has, help save these folks. And pretty much they all get together, they all join together. The woman's going to join along because she's going to fund the expedition. They warn her, hey, it's too dangerous. Hey, it sounds like it would be fun. And they go on this journey. Now, there's not a whole lot of locations they get to shoot. A lot of times it's kind of, they're out in the middle of the fields or desert or however you want to call it. A lot of times they're out in the open plain. In the second half of the film, it seems like there's few interiors. There's a cave over here. There's the final den you see a bit of at the end of the film. And technically you see that den throughout. Because these vampires, they love their topless women. I will say that. They love their topless women. Because they'll get like a bunch of women tied down to a chair. Or they'll always like make sure to rip the shirt off to have the tatas, the TTs, the ho-hos there. Not that I mind because it's nice to look at, so I don't blame them. I can understand their preference. But they love their titties. Sometimes there's a few mistakes here and there. Like there's a bit where they're around like a campfire type of thing. And Peter Cushing is telling the story with the medallion. With some flashbacks. So he's telling the story. I guess it's supposed to like simmer and be hot and he drops it. Like we hear it simmer. Then it cuts to like Peter Cushing talking like normally and then drops it. He doesn't go, ow, or oh my god, or what the hell. Like, he doesn't really act that way. It's almost as if that was added in some weird editing thing where it cut to like him talk normally and then it dropped and then we're supposed to assume, oh, it got heated up or whatever the case. Also, I'm sitting there going, well, wait a minute, so if Dracula is in this Asian body and now they've been around for 100 years, you would think they'd be like taking a lot more of the countryside. Because if Dracula has 7 or even 6 vampires, though the remaining 6 in him, 7, you think those would go through a lot more of the countryside of the land, take care of a lot more conquest. But maybe they want to keep a low profile, so maybe that's why they don't. I just felt like a lot more would have been demolished in 100 years. From 1804 to 1904. That's why the jump to 100 years was a bit jarring. I'm like, wait. He took the bite in 1804, now it's 1904? It's been 100 years? What has he done for 100 years? I guess they do have a bit of an army. Because I guess... Okay, they're victims. I guess they're vampires, but they act like zombies because they like come out of the ground. And like the way they look, it feels like a bit more of a rotting carcass zombie than vampires. But I guess we needed more because we need more for our kung fu heroes to fight. And the fighting's okay. I mean, it's nothing fantastic. But it's alright if you like those old kung fu movies in the 70s. Which I'm a sucker for. And you know, once in a while there's some decent bloodshed. Some get their throats slit. Some impalement. There's a bit where they're all fighting in a cave. And Peter Cushing has a torch. And then David Chan kicks the guy. Like drop kicks him and pushes the vampire into the thing. To impale the vampire. So in a way it's like both of them working together. And during like that cave fight they killed 2 of the main vampires as well as some of the henchmen. Hench victims. So I said, wow, there's only 4 left. Seems like it should be easy enough. There were 7, now there's 6. You find 6, now you kill 2 of them, now there's 4 left. Actually, they kill one more as well. The drop kick, Van Helsing, David Chan double team. So they actually kill 3 during the cave fight. So that means there should be 3 left. So you think, wow, you know, they killed 3 in one swift go. Now they only have 3 left. But it's going to be a bit tougher than before. Which I find funny. They were able to handle it when there were 6 of them, as well as the henchmen, but not so much when there's 3 of them and the henchmen left. But, you know, that's how movies work. Now, like I said, I do think it's a fun B-movie. I do, like I said, I like the combination of kung fu and vampires. I do wish the vampires looked a bit more slick looking. I wish the makeup was a bit better instead of just kind of this gray putty they could put around the jowls and face. A lot of times Peter Cushing doesn't have a whole lot to do because he's not a fighter. So a lot of times he's on the side watching, but whenever he's a great actor, whenever he's on screen, he brings such a wonderful presence to the proceedings. He tries to do a little bit with the torch, but again, you're not going to have Peter Cushing punching and kung fu fighting or anything. But he does a little bit here and there in terms of, again, with the torch to get back in it. But again, it's going to be the others that are going to do a lot more of the fighting. Now, they try to do this romance between David Chan and the white rich girl, as well as Van Helsing's son and the Asian girl. But it's very non-existent. They don't really do anything with it. It's like they knew it'd be non-existent, so it's like they barely hint at it. So I'm sitting there going, you shouldn't have done it at all, if that's the case. Like, you're not going to, you don't really do much of depth or much screen time with it, so why even bring it up in the first place? I guess so you get the bit spoilers, and no pun intended with bit, but during the big bout at the end, the rich girl gets bit. David Chan deals with the vampire, sees that, well, I'm not sure if he deals with the vampire, I'm trying to remember. She gets bit, he knows that she's bit, she bites him, Peter Cushing tells him what he needs to do, so he impales the lady, then knows he's too far gone and impales himself. That was a bit surprising, because I would think of all the people on that side to survive, it would be David Chan. He seemed like the lead of that group, and he dies. I went, okay, that surprised me. I didn't expect that, but then I'm like, I kind of wish he survived. I liked him more than Van Helsing's son, to be honest. I would prefer Van Helsing's kid die. And David Chan to live, but that's just me. But I mean, they take stuff from both sides. Some of the group get killed, some of the vampires get killed. The Asian girl gets taken, Van Helsing's son goes after her. Peter Cushing comes up, stabs the last of the 7 golden vampires in the back. It falls into this pit of liquid, dissolves. Everyone leaves except Peter Cushing. Sees the Asian, guy Ka. Peter Cushing's like, Dracula, let me see your true face. Now, again, this is where I wish it was Christopher Lee. This would have been a nice cherry on top. This bit between, it just... Yes, Dracula would barely be in it, but the fact... I mean, it's like, come on, Christopher Lee. You only have to do, like, 2 scenes. Even just say, listen, I'll do these 2 scenes, that's it. That at least would have given a little cherry on top. I did. It would have been better than this crap you would do later in Police Academy 7 Mission to Moscow. Or was it Return of Captain Invincible and some of these other movies? Like, come on now. Although it's that much of a fight, pretty much Dracula smacks him, bitch smacks him. Then when he comes toward, Peter Cushing just stabs him. That's it. So as a big fight with Dracula, it becomes a bit anticlimactic. Like, oh, I guess it's over now. So, I mean, I wouldn't call it a great movie. There's issues in terms of the cheapness of some of the makeup. The kung fu is alright, but it's not 100% the best. Sometimes Peter Cushing is just too much off to the sides because it's not a whole lot for him to do. He's not a fighter. But when Peter Cushing is there, he brings out a great sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? Respectability to the proceedings, even if it's not supposed to, because, hey, it's kung fu and vampires. But he brings a sense of legitimacy in a weird way to the proceedings. He's just such a, like, if you're asking me my favorite actors in this era, it's hard to do those lists because there's so many and it's easy to forget. And someone probably did ask me before, and it's hard to do those lists because I forget about, yeah, there's this guy. Peter Cushing would be in there as favorite actors of this generation. Peter Cushing, because anytime I see him, and yes, my first time was Star Wars, but Horror Express, films like this, Horror of Dracula, you just really see the tenacity he brings to Van Helsing. Like, this is a guy you could get behind, this is a guy you could trust, this is a guy that you can put all your eggs in one basket, and because you believe what he says, and you believe what he believes, and he just brings that. He brings a lot to the table. And the movie's much better with him in it. Without Peter Cushing, I'd probably be a bit more negative and a bit more harsher on the movie. But again, having Peter Cushing in there is a great plus. The concept is a fun plus to it. I mean, the fact that they're the golden vampires, all it is just they have some masks, but that's it. Like I said, the romance, there's really not much development on it. Van Helsing's son, I wasn't really big on. I kind of would have preferred he wasn't in it. Have it be like his son died, and then he listed David Sheehan as kind of a son. You remind me of a son. You remind me of my son. He passed away. Doesn't even have to be about vampires. Like, he passed away from other circumstances. He passed away from whatever circumstances around 1904 or late 1800s. Then so you have this bond between Peter Cushing and David Sheehan where he's like a fatherly figure to this guy, and maybe David Sheehan's like, you remind me of my grandfather or father. There's a lot more you could have done with that dynamic. And so as the two of them working together, so I had the two of them, maybe the female Asian martial artist, had the last three at the end be them. I would have preferred that. If you did more that direction and not worry about romance that goes nowhere, Christopher Lee, if he was able to get back in, at least at the very beginning ending would have had a little bit of cherry on top on it. Better makeup on the vampires. Maybe a little bit more in the choreography of the fights. Then this would have been like a hidden gem. As is, it's a fun diversion. It's a fun enough diversion, entertaining enough that if the premise intrigues you, it's definitely worth a watch. Just don't think it's going to set the world on fire. But was it an easy watch for me? Yeah, it was an easy watch for me. It's not too long of a movie. The fights at times are fine for what they need to be. At times they're decent, decently violent. I mean, there's a character that like gets their hands cut off at one point. So there's definitely some violent moments in it. No sequel bait ending, no BS downbeat ending or anything to ruin. Like I said, Peter Cushing is a big plus for it. Overall, it was a decent time, and I liked it. So I guess, in essence, it's one of my favorite Hammer horror films. I would say Horror Dracula and then this movie. So I guess there you go. Horror Express I don't think is Hammer. I forget which company made that. I don't remember. But every time Peter Cushing movies I would put Horror Express above this, but yeah. Fun for what it needed to be. But that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.